Hello everyone, welcome to the Indie World Global News and I'm your host Samar Lama. You must have often heard a saying that power is not a constant and hence we are now seeing how the world is shifting from bipolar to multipolar power. The world is no longer based on a single superpower anymore. It is now divided into many superpowers. Here we are talking about America is not a superpower anymore. Here we are talking about so-called the global power is losing its global hegemony day by day. Has America now lost the status of being a superpower? Let's analyze these topics. In recent development, we have seen the global status of US is not that much impressive and commanding. The world is now looking for a new superpower that can keep the whole world in peace and move forward by taking everyone's hand. We have seen that ever since Joe Biden took over his administrations, his foreign policy has proved to be a disaster. From Afghanistan blunder to the Ukraine war, we have seen the real picture of US foreign policy and its self-interest. Today, all those countries are raising questions on the American government, which America has promised to give military security to those countries. After the Afghanistan and Ukraine disaster, those countries are worried whether US will actually help them when the time comes. If you are following global news, then recently you might have heard about the Japanese former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's statement. Japan openly demands nuclear weapons from America. Japan is now very worried and concerned after seeing the blunder that happened in Ukraine. Shinzo Abe made two big points. Firstly, can Joe Biden declare to the world that if China attacks Taiwan tomorrow, then America will come forward in Taiwan's defense or not? What USA has done in Afghanistan and Ukraine, the same thing that Joe Biden is going to repeat in Taiwan? That's a big question. Japan has spoken openly this statement. After seeing Joe Biden's foreign policy, Japan is not trusting America. Japan has also increased their defense budget as not to depend upon US anymore. Similarly, same way, Taiwan has openly demanded Quad memberships after Ukraine war disaster. Taiwan is very concerned about what has happened in Ukraine. Actually, it is very shocking. US kept saying that we are with Ukraine, we support Ukraine and we will save Ukraine. But as Russia attacks Ukraine, then US was the first country to pull back and made a statement that we don't want fight with Russia for Ukraine as we have nothing to do with this. Now, Taiwan fears that what has happened to Ukraine can happen to them too. And yes, I can say that it's not a big deal because we have already seen USA hypocrisy. This is what Taiwan and many other countries are feeling now, whether US will really be able to give them security or not. Recently, you all must have heard that Joe Biden tried to call the leader of Saudi Arabia and UAE, Mohammed bin Salman and Mohammed bin Rashid, and both of these leaders refused to pick up the call. It's a huge major embarrassment for USA. In the entire modern history, if you see, you have not seen this happening with any world leader till date. And if you talk about a small and underdeveloped country, then it's a different scenario. But it was quite a shocking and embarrassment moment to ignore a superpower like United States of America. If you follow the US media, then you must have seen that the American media and the people themselves are feeling very down and ashamed looking at the conditions of Joe Biden, because even today Americans are feeling that globally their status is decreasing to a great extent. It's a big insult to whole nations for ignoring US president call. In the last 50 years, perhaps, we have seen such a geopolitical events that is happening today. Saudi Arabia started using Chinese currency yuan for oil trade. For the first time in history, Saudi is totally backing out after seeing the foreign policy of Joe Biden. Officially, Saudi has stated that they will soon launch trade in yuan, which will impact on US dollar, or it may be the end era of petrodollar. In recent event, you must have seen how the Foreign Minister of India, Dr. S. Jaishankar, gave a proper and brilliant reply to one of the US reporter in front of the US Secretary of State, Mr. Anthony Blinken. When the reporter questions Dr. S. Jaishankar on the purchase of Russian gas, then Dr. Jaishankar gave a befitting reply that the gas that India buys for a month, the same European countries buy it till afternoon.
I noticed you refer to oil purchases. If you are looking at energy purchases from Russia, I would suggest that your attention should be focused on Europe, which probably we do buy some energy which is necessary for our energy security. But I suspect, looking at the figures, probably our total purchases for the month would be less than what Europe does in an afternoon. So you might want to think about it.
Here it was an attempt how to pressurize India against Russia. Again, in second attempt when US tried to raise questions in human rights, then once again Dr. S. Jaishankar made a brilliant reply to USA that India is worried about human rights in USA. We look at US human rights too.
People are entitled to have views about us. But we are also equally entitled to have views about their views and about the interests and the lobbies and the vote banks which drive that. Whenever there is a discussion, I can tell you that we will not be reticent about speaking out. I would also, just so that I round off that point, tell you that we also have views on other people's human rights situation, including that of the United States. So we take up human rights issues when they arise in this country, especially when they pertain to our community.
America is quite shocked by such a reply from India and probably will hear something like this. They didn't expect it. They must have thought that to force India to speak against Russia in front of the whole world, but this result was just the opposite. In this recent development, we have seen the global status of India, that they are not worried about any sanction put by US government. Also, India doesn't care about the Karska sanction. India has openly said that it will continuously purchase gas and oil from Russia. India has kept its stand very clear that nothing will disturb the relations between Russia and India. There will be no issue and problem in the relation between these two countries. For the first time in history, we have seen that how India is not coming under any pressure from America or any other Western countries. We have seen how the Ukraine war has exposed the hypocrisy of the United States, NATO and all the Western countries. We also got to see many disputes, differences and arguments between NATO and USA. Some NATO countries do not agree at all on US foreign policy. I want to say that the way the whole world used to see America for so decades as a powerful, aggressive and proactive nations, in just a few months under the administrations of Joe Biden, it has completely damaged the image of USA. For the past several months, their foreign policy has proved to be very disastrous. All those countries that used to rely on USA earlier, now they are all backing down. American sanctions have also not seen any significant impact on Russia. If I say in simple and straight language, then nowadays US government and its influence are not seen as effective as it used to be. Many countries do not listen to US anymore in the way they used to do at one time. People have started looking at America from the point of view as an old and tired nation. Perhaps now many countries must have understood that friendship with America is always expensive somewhere. The country in which America has interfered till date, that country has always been devastated. America has worked till today only for its own benefits and self-interest. Now, the biggest question is all the geopolitical event which is going around the world. Is this the sign that USA is losing its global hegemony day by day? Most of the countries are now looking forwards on two major big giants, that is India and China. Most of the country now looking forward to put these two giants into the global map as their world leader. The world is no longer tied on only one superpower, but now big countries like India and China are also in the list. We would like to hear from you. We would like to know about your opinions, whether US is no longer superpower anymore. Thank you and see you next time.